Amazing.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, we are live. My name is Maria Dismondy, and I am the publisher over at Cardinal Rule Press. I'm coming to you from my home in Michigan, my home office, and I am meeting here with Lindsay Lane, and she is over in Austin, right?
Yep.
Hi, welcome, Lindsay.
Hi, Maria. It's good to be with you.
It's good to chat with you, and I'm totally looking forward to hearing your journey. So let's just dig in, start from the beginning. Were you a reader and a writer as a kid?
Very much so. Very, very much so. I grew up in New England, in Massachusetts, and in my house there were a lot of dormers, and my parents they became like little closets that went behind rooms, and I had two in my room that went in corners, and I would absolutely take all the books. I for some reason, yeah, and there was light in there, and if there wasn't light, there was flashlights. I think that I did not take any candles in there, thank God.
Had these cozy little nooks where you would go and you would read and
totally. So I would be back in there with the books, dolls. I would make, it was like my fort, my reading fort, and the hiding places, and yeah. And so sometime in there, I did start writing, but I really remember writing a lot when I was like 12. It was right at the cusp of 6th grade, going into junior high, and feeling really like I was seeing things in the world that were just a little bit different from the way it actually was working.
Oh.
And I remember writing long letters to friends, boyfriends, kind of explaining who I am, how I wanted the world to be, what was messed up about it. And then they would write me back these long, copious letters. It was, yeah. So that was my first taste of like, oh, writing is about explaining the world in a certain kind of way.
The way you see it, or the way you want to see it.
Yeah, exactly. So when I graduated from high school and started looking at colleges, what my goal was to graduate by writing.
Okay.
And the only college I went first to Beloit College in Wisconsin, but then I transferred to Hampshire College in Amherst, Massachusetts, because it allowed you to pursue. So my goal of I wanted to graduate by writing could be achieved at that college, because basically it was like graduate school. You put together your own course of study, and you have professors who kind of coach you, and you meet with the professors and you tell them what you're reading, what you're writing, etc.
But this was an undergraduate program.
Totally undergraduate, and it still works that way. It's fabulous. It's part of the 5-college system in Amherst, Massachusetts, Amherst, Northampton. And now I didn't say what kind of writing I was going to be doing, right? And I wandered into a theater arts class at Smith College, and there was this guy, this playwriting professor, Len Berkman, who kind of blew my mind. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do playwriting. So I graduated by writing several different plays, and one was produced as, my graduate project. And I just read copious books, plays. And then I went to graduate school, and I was so bored with school at this point. So I moved to Austin, Texas, which had this great small theater scene going on, but that was good because we got to know each other, support each other, and I began writing and producing plays. I never got on the director side of it, but writing and producing, and I did that for many, many years. And then And that led to journalism.
Okay.
The theater scene there was, as often happens in different, there's different dips in the economy. And there was this big dip in Austin where like theaters evaporated, except the very,
like elite.
The well-established experimental theater died.
Was that the point? Is that the point that you went and put your hands into some journalism work?
Yeah. So there was an alternative weekly called the Austin Chronicle that had just started up several years before, and I started writing for them, and I loved writing for them. And their editor, Lewis Black, who's also from the East Coast, said, kind of took me under his wing. Awesome. And he thought it'd be a really great idea if I started doing investigative journalism. And my first assignment was to go interview this guy in prison, awaiting trial for child molestation.
Whoa.
And not only that, he was a millionaire. It was like bizarre.
It's like Dateline.
And so I did it, and it was fascinating. And what happened in that interview for me was I'm not going to say his name, but when you're interviewing a person like that, it's like you start to kind of try and figure out where they're lying, because he's trying to portray, he hadn't gone to trial yet, and he was trying to get the press on his side. Okay. So he was trying to portray himself as an innocent victim.
Yeah.
And it was really fun to write the article as fact, but kind of shade in this these odd little details that he would obfuscate. Anyway, so that was fascinating to me. So Lewis sent me on several different stories, and one of them was to interview a woman on death row who was the second woman executed by the state of Texas.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. It was pretty fascinating. And then I went from there, I worked for the Daily, and then I became a mom. And as often happens with writers who become parents, is they fall in love with children's literature. And that's what happened for me. I started reading all of the Caldecott books, and I started, trying to play around with them. And that's when I got Snuggle Mountain. I didn't have an agent. I submitted it to Naomi Shihab Nye's editors. She had two editors, and I submitted to both. Okay. And one of them said, this has some potential. And then I went to Vermont College of Fine Arts to get a writing. So about 20 years had gone by, and I decided, okay, I need more writing knowledge, more tools in my toolbox. And so I went to Vermont College. The program's called Writing for Children and Young Adults.
Okay.
And it's a 2-year low residency program. So you only go up there once every 6 months for 10 days. It's fabulous.
Wow.
And then, and the off times you are, working with one advisor and improving your craft. It's a remarkable program. And when I got out of there, I wrote a young adult novel that was published.
Is that where we're at now? Like, tell us a little bit, because that was a great, because that was, is that book evidence
of things not seen.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the book I wrote when I graduated, and I've written another young adult novel, but I put it aside. You obviously have to be willing to put things aside, because I think I need to move it from first person point of view to third.
Okay.
But I'm just setting it aside, letting it rest. And I'm now drafting a middle grade novel that I hope to send to my critique group in January.
And that's what I was going to ask you. A lot of the interviews that we've had, first of all, that's a beautiful story. And we've heard from a few people who have gone into writing in college and always wanted to write and be a writer. And then we've heard a few stories from authors in this series who, you know, one was an architect and that's what she did. And then one day she started writing and was able to merge both together to be author illustrator. So I love hearing that you've always wanted to be a writer and the different ways your writing career has looked in different industries.
Mm-hmm.
From the arts, from the theater to journalism, and now to literature, children's literature. So the critique group, because writers are oftentimes alone. It's a lonely career. Here I am talking to you on the internet, and this is something I've looked forward to all day because I'm normally, without my son, I'm lonely working by myself, right? It's like a lonely career. So tell us about your critique group. And I know that you've met other authors in different ways. Tell us about what kind of support have you had as a writer as you were going through the publishing process or the submissions process?
Yeah. Let's see. Gosh, I can't remember a time I didn't have somebody reading my work, but let me just talk for a minute about the current critique group. They've all been, there's a variety, middle grade, picture book writers. There's 5 of us. And one of them actually is, there's 2 in Austin, 2 in College Station, and 1 in Canada. And so we all get together about once a month and read work. And it's anywhere from what we call the Jackie Woodson read. Jackie Woodson always lets someone read a work and just is totally supportive when it's just out of your heart and onto the page. You don't really want the critic in there yet. You want somebody reading it that can just say, okay, this is what I'm hearing the work say. This is what I'm seeing, what's on the page. And this really works for me. I really love this character. I think that that's really important to have that group with you. And then when you get further along, then you have, then you can kind of go, oh, there's something missing here in the structure. I don't get this part, or there's a big logic issue that's not working, like that.
So one is more feeling based, like this is what I feel and hear, and the next one's a little more strategic, like let's give you some tools to make this better.
Yeah. I tend to be heavy critic on myself. There's some people that can get a first draft out and put the critic aside. I constantly am having to tell my critic to take a hike and just say, come on, give me a break. This is a first draft. I can't know everything. You have to get it on the page in order to see what you've written. And it won't be perfect, and you will. I think there's a part of me that wants so much to have, it come out perfect the first time. It's just like, that's
not reality. It's not realistic.
Right.
That's fantastic. Now, so the critique group has been helpful, and you've said that you can't remember a time that you haven't had someone supporting your writing in that way.
Yeah, I mean, even back in college when I was in the playwriting, you're constantly putting it out there, hearing what works. You should always be reading your work aloud. I also think you should have your work read to you, but that's sometimes hard when you're talking about a 60,000 word event.
Yeah. Now, can we also ask you a little bit about your writing habits? So this is something that I know some people struggle with, and we're just actually exiting NaNoWriMo, which is, the National Writing Month, where there's supporters out there who say, get your novel in the month of November, which I think is very challenging, but kudos to those who do it. So tell us a little bit about your writing habits. Like, where do you write? What works?
Let's see.
So for example, I can only write early in the morning. So at this point in the day, I can check some emails, but my super creative work has to happen between like 5 a.m. and 8 a.m.
Yeah, I have to say that when I'm drafting, it's really good if I can do it when I'm fresh. I can usually edit anytime during a day.
Okay.
Because I don't know, I'm using that critic part of my brain. But if I'm drafting, I like to do it very quietly. And I only set a very manageable goal, whether it's 2 scenes, 2 pages. I try not to psych myself out with too much.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. And so in this current novel that I'm drafting, I was in a workshop with Gary Schmidt this summer, and he said, I sit down every morning and I start right at the beginning and I read through it, da, 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 and then I only add 2 pages. And I actually did that up until about page 75. And then what started to happen was I got all wound up in the connective tissue, like, the going up the steps and the making breakfast. And it was starting to get really boring to me. So what I decided to do was write the scenes that I know I needed, that I knew had to have the heartbeat in it. And I would only draft 1 or 2 scenes. And then I guess what's going to happen, we don't know.
Ooh, I love this. Then you're going to connect it all?
And then I'm going to connect it all and just see where this is a grand experiment. I have no idea.
Now, talk about fascinating. That is really, I could see the benefit of that, though, because in your heart of hearts, these moments that need to get into the novel.
Yeah, exactly. And one of my teachers at Vermont College, Marian Dane Bauer, she said this thing once that's so good. It was like, once I know the ending, it's like knowing my way home.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, and it's true. It doesn't have to be exact, but you sort of know the feeling. And that really is helpful. But if I know the heart scenes, why the heck wouldn't I want to go ahead and get to them, right?
Yeah. Now, is this a daily thing? Are you writing it every day?
No. And then I have to say, and Lindsey, you're not a bad person.
No.
I think that I can pretty much hit 4 days out of 7, possibly 5. But the world of email comes crashing in. Oh my God, you've got to keep up with stuff. So there are some days where it's just like, okay, I've got to sit down and take care of business. And to be truthful about that, I think it's all writing. I really do. You're thinking about what you need to say, you're saying it, you're communicating. It counts.
It does. So tell us, since your first book has come out, what kinds of events have you done where you've been able to connect with readers? Like, was there a launch, or what kind, like school visits?
Yeah, there's all kinds of things like that. Now, it's a little tricky when you get when the book was published, I was very worried about promotion. Like, oh my gosh, I have to do so much promotion. And you have to be available. But I think that it's important to remember that you need to respond to what comes over the transom. But if you're constantly being a promoter, then you're not writing. And it's a balance. So I think that when the book comes out, you want to have everything ready for a book launch and, be available for school visits and things like that. But your job is to write another book. And I think that everybody, certainly the publisher wants another book because that helps sell your backlist. But I really got overly concerned with promotion. Like,
Okay. Like I have the hat of a writer, and now I'm putting on this other hat of promoter, and how do I wear them both at the same time? And
right, and that's tricky too, because you don't want to discard the writer hat. You just want to sort of put a feather of promotion in your hat.
Oh, I like that.
Like, I'm available. Yes, I'd love to do that visit. I love going to schools. I love doing visits in high schools writing, because one of the things I like to tell kids is the cool thing about writing is there's no wrong answers. There's just creating the world, right? And the other thing I like to do is in high school, they have this thing where, they've got to do these college essays and blah, blah, blah. And I love to do 5 or 10 minute prompts. And at the end of them, not only just have maybe possibly a good piece of writing, but I say, look how much you got done in 10 minutes. Yeah. If you set the timer for your college essays, you're done. I mean, you at least have something on the page.
We are getting some comments, and I just want to tell you, Gail Wallet, I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly. She's saying, great interview. And she did ask if she can't hear the whole interview right now live, can we go back and listen? So when we're all done, you will be able to go on the Facebook page, Cardinal Rule Press, and you'll be able to see the whole interview. And yes, we also put it on YouTube. So she asked those questions.
Oh,
and there's a bunch of people watching. So if you guys have guys and gals have any other questions for Lindsey, please let us know as we wrap up this interview. Because I love what you tell the kids about there's no right or wrong. And that's probably why I've always enjoyed writing, because with math and science, there's just so many black and white answers.
Yeah.
You're either right or you're wrong, but with writing, it's just endless possibilities.
Right. I mean, there's, I'll nod at the teacher and say, yes, there's grammar and punctuation and spelling, but really the words on the page, the story, there's just getting it on the page.
Yeah. There are famous writers who were not super good at grammar and spelling and all that jazz. Like, I was just reading something about Albert Einstein, and he actually considered himself a slow learner, and it took him extra time to do a typical task in the classroom. But look at what he did. Look at what he created. So
yeah. He thought really big.
Yeah, he really did. So this has been wonderful. What is next? You're writing right now. You are, how far along are you in your novel right now?
Well, like I said, I hope to get it to my critique, a full draft of it.
Full draft. Okay.
Mid-January, and then I have a lot of teaching set up for next year. I
did say you do public speaking and you do some teaching.
Right. I'm teaching as an assistant professor at the community college. I'm doing a broad course of writing children's literature. That should be fun, and then I'm doing a couple of private things. For the Writers League of Texas, and then a private short fiction class.
Very cool. So you are a busy gal.
Yeah, it's a juggle, but actually I like it.
Yeah.
I like the juggle.
And that's probably what makes you want to come back to the writing, is because you don't do just that all day long. You get a variety of stuff.
Right. And that's, when life gets a little overwhelming, to be actually in communion with just the words on the page is very, there's solace in that. There's, that it's actually controllable in a world that is full of uncontrollable things.
Very good. This has been lovely. And I'm just so thankful that you could make time for us in your busy schedule to be here.
Oh, thank you so much, Maria.
And to inspire everyone listening that journeys can look very different, but at the end of the day, it's the words on the page that matter, whether they're published or not. But you are on a roll. So we're looking.
Wait, what are you writing, Maria?
Oh, what am I writing? Hold on. I'm getting an echo. Let me put my headphones on. Oh, I just finished a book yesterday. But this is not about me. I know. Yeah, I just finished writing a parenting book yesterday. So I wrapped up like 59,000 words, I think 833 or something.
What is it?
My first draft. I don't have a title.
Okay.
But it's a nonfiction book on parenting. It's raising good people. So it's all about character and what you can be doing in your home to raise kind and caring individuals. And it covers a variety of topics from like mental health to education and literacy. And yeah, so it's been a lot. And so I'm going to put it away for a few weeks and then I'll start going back, and I do the same thing. I have to put it away and then we'll go back.
Fabulous. Good. That's terrific. I just finished the book.
I know. And that book will come out in 2020. So it seems like this is good for people to hear. It is such a long process. I mean, it's 2018 and I'm just finishing this book and it won't come out till 2020. But we have for the industry standards, we have to have everything in by before April. So that process can be a little grueling with those deadlines. But thanks for asking, Lindsay.
You're right. I'm going to a book launch on Saturday for Mary Mancusi, and it's a book that was 15 years in the making. And three different publishers, went from YA down to middle grade, and she just never gave up. Never.
I love that. And do you know the title of the book? I can always look it up.
It's called The Camelot Code.
I feel like I've seen that somewhere. You know, I wonder if because I just read the Publishers Weekly yesterday, and I swear I think I saw it in there. She might have been in Publishers Weekly. Yeah, that's awesome. All right, Lindsay, well, we're going to say goodbye for now, but be sure to go back to the comments because more people are commenting and there's just positivity and I just love it. So.
All right. Thanks, Maria.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you, Lindsay.
Bye.